shifts don't happen in decades, they happen in years, and sometimes even months, and sometimes even weeks. Like, no job is safe. The way our post-secondary education system is sold is you do this, you get a job. But so many people, they'll go to school for 2 to 4 years or longer and graduate and still need more training. You could be the best producer ever. You're not going to get in if you don't know somebody. Tech industry works off of referral too. The main challenge out of everything is actually mindset. Bob Marley said it best, right? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. When people think about workforce development, the biggest challenge is not actually education. The biggest challenge is figuring out how to teach people to master their own psychology. Pour your heart out. Bare your soul. Show them what you feel.
Welcome to the Generation Hustle Podcast, a show that explores the world of business, entrepreneurship, and culture, all centered around the millennial. I'm your co-host, Sherson, alongside my good friend, Amin, and this week we're talking about everything to do with career development. Episode 42 is with Ruben Harris, co-founder and CEO of Career Karma. Career Karma is the easiest way to find a job training program online, matching people with the right coding bootcamp and supporting them throughout their careers. With over 150,000 members, 9,000 bootcamps and trade schools, Career Karma is on a mission to help 1 billion people over the next 10 years. Ruben is a Bay Area transplant from Atlanta, Georgia, who switched from investment banking to tech after writing a viral blog post called Breaking Into Startups, about how he moved to San Francisco without a job and landed a position within 3 weeks. Following this, he received thousands of emails asking how to break into tech, so he co-founded the Breaking Into Startups podcast to demystify the process and went on to building Career Karma. So we talked to Ruben about his journey through professional and personal development. He details the Y Combinator Experience, how to build a community, and explains the importance of mastering your psychology. This was a packed conversation with so many insights. We hope you enjoy. So thanks, Ruben, for coming on. We want to touch base on a few things. First and foremost, touch base on the education system within Canada and to a lesser extent, Canada. We all have seen problems, whether it's, from the degrees having no ROI or just the general cost of education. So first, let's talk about what do you believe is like the future of education? I know it's a pretty loaded question there, but, in recent years, we've seen some changes. And do you see some things that are accelerating that new change for the future of education?
Yeah. I think that embracing lifelong learning is no longer optional. So I think everybody has to recognize that the days where you study only up to a certain point and then you're done with school are over. And you have to embrace being forever a student because people aren't going to stay in one job forever anymore. Mm-hmm. Automation has always been around. And for the people that don't know what automation is, it's essentially the creation and destruction of jobs because new technologies are created that make old jobs irrelevant. For example, sewing clothes, and then you have a sewing machine, or riding horses, then you have a car, or lighting things by candle, and then you have electricity. That has persisted over time, since the caveman, but it's moving way faster now to where these shifts don't happen in decades, they happen in years, and sometimes even months, and sometimes even weeks. Right. And so even no job is safe. So you have to assume that no job is safe anymore. And if that's the case, not only do individuals have to be prepared, but education institutions have to be prepared. Our post-secondary education system is based off of a 2 to 4 year model. Mm-hmm. Trade schools are ahead of the game with tend to be this 1 to 2 year model with things like nursing or barbershops or beauty school, things like that. But I actually think the entire industry is going to shift towards this short form 1 to 2 year model, maybe less than that, 3 to 12 month model for every skill set. The only area where I see that not being the case is medicine. Mm-hmm, I think as a physician, it requires a little bit longer, but I think other than that, you could pretty much teach anything in 3 to 12 months. Our higher education system teaches you a bunch of other things that aren't relevant to the job.
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean it's not important. Like those things about history or language or whatever, art, like all these things are like very important. However, um, the way our post-secondary education system is sold is you do this, you get a job. But so many people, they'll go to school for 2 to 4 years or longer and graduate and still need more training,
Right.
or like also still not find a job and be overloaded with debt. And so,
Yeah.
in addition to these rapid reskilling models that we're talking about, I think we're also going to see an outcomes driven model where like when a worker or a student is thinking about where they're going to go to school, they want to make sure that the school holds themselves accountable to getting you a job.
Yeah.
Or if your goal is not to be going to school to get a job, then you'll go to a school that just teaches you things. But I would argue most people don't go to school to just learn. I think a good Canadian example of a school that is focused on rapid reskilling that gives a good example of where things are going is Juneau College of Technology. It's run by a woman. She's in Y Combinator as well, and she's been killing it. I think like that model is a good a good example.
Right.
There used to be another one. I think it was Canadian. It was like Horizon. I don't remember, but I think Juno is a good example just off the top of my head that I would start thinking about. That hints as to where things are going. A lot of people say colleges are all going to shut down. Like R.I.P. Clay Christensen from Harvard Business School, he said that like half of colleges are going to go away. I do think that that's still the case, but I don't think all of colleges are going to go completely.
Right.
I think that they're going to evolve, and they're just going to be more optional. I think that you're not going to have to go to college anymore. I think, as soon as you're like maybe even 16 to 18, you can go straight to work, like it used to be back in the day. And as a musician, because I've been playing the music for a long time, I think about it very similar to the music industry, where like most people that are famous artists never went to Juilliard or Berklee School of Music. They just know how to make songs that people like. Like if you know how to make beats, you can be in the industry. The hardest part of getting into the industry is like becoming Drake's best friend, so you can actually play the record for him. You could be the best producer ever, but like you're not gonna get in if you don't know somebody. Which the tech industry works off of referral too. So
Right.
Yeah. So apart from obviously financial considerations, you mentioned, training and lack thereof through school might be a kind of leading factor of why, students have a tough challenge getting jobs today. Do you also feel like having concentrations in specific fields have resulted in a hardship? Like there's so many more business students, there's so many more like students in engineering, stuff like that have, resulted in challenges for students getting jobs.
I don't think that's the challenge. I don't think the concentration of skills is the challenge. I think if I was gonna say like the main challenge out of everything is actually mindset and like helping our people like have the right mindset. And when I say our people, I refer to Black and brown people, or just people that are let's just keep it buck, like just people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds in general, like have limited mindsets for good reason, right? Been oppressed for years. You see what's happening to our Asian brothers and sisters with the Asian hate and all this other stuff that's happening. Like racism and oppression is real. But Bob Marley said it best, right? In Redemption Song, he said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. Like so many people, like you could point them in the right direction. You could give them the right path. You could show them the right skills. You can introduce them to the right companies. You could show them the right people, but they will not move forward because they're scared and they don't think it's possible. And there's generations of people that have been oppressed. There's a great quote I saw yesterday, or I overheard yesterday. It said, hold on, I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is because it's a really good one. It pretty much says it's pretty much related to like guns and triggers for people. It says genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle and environment pulls the trigger. All right. A lot of people just feel like these these generational curses or even diseases are like inevitable, right? Let's say
Yeah.
like your family has a lot of people that are overweight. So you just choose not to exercise. You choose not to eat right because you're like, this runs in my family, right? And
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be the case. And I'm bringing this tangent because like I've seen it. Like the biggest when people think about workforce development, the biggest challenge is not actually education. The biggest challenge is figuring out how to teach people to master their own psychology.
I never thought of that, man. That's like, it's wild. I think, in terms of mindset change, I feel like, minorities, again, to your point, don't really think broader. They only think about, like, let's give you the example of like, say, a typical brown individual. It's either become a lawyer, doctor, engineer. That's the only thing that we're taught as a young individual. And I'm pretty sure in the Black community, it's like, something similar into that nature. It's just like, get an education, get a job, and there's nothing else that you have to look for, right? And then certain other factors. Where do you feel like mentorship has a play in terms of, how important it is to develop that psychological aspect or that mindset of like, I can do that? Because like, if I see like a Black executive, a brown executive, I can actually look up to that individual, but I don't see any of that right now and today. And we struggle with that as a minority group.
Yeah, I mean, I think mentorship is a big factor. And I think where you see a shine is in sports, right? I mean, you got a Bulls hat on, right? Growing up, when you see the Bulls in their prime, everybody wanted to be like Mike, right? Jordan showed that you can fly, right? Jordan got cut from the high school team, right? Jordan didn't even fully know what he was capable of, and we can all relate to him. That's why it's still such a powerful cultural figure today, right? Everybody still compares themselves to Jordan, right? Even though it's arguable that LeBron and R.I.P. Kobe is on the same level, right? And the reason why I bring it up is because once you saw Mike and everybody wanted to be like Mike, everybody got to work and started putting in action to try to be like Mike. They found these basketball courts and they went and they trained and they practiced every day. They will come up with a routine. They would look for a coach that would give them guidance. They listened to the coach. And these are people that grew up in struggle, like that put in more hard work than I would argue that it takes to break into tech. Right?
Right.
They became fitness animals. They put themselves through physical injury to be like Mike. Right? They learned how to work as a team, not just as an individual, because that was required to win games, right? So we have a playbook about how to win in sports, right? But we don't apply it to the business world or the real world, which is like essentially also very similar to sports. And it's what that's why there's so many different sports analogies that business people use, and why so many successful business people invest in sports and study sports and watch football games, are fascinated by it. But we haven't figured out how to play that game. And so using that sports analogy and your point about mentorship, why do the most elite athletes in the world that are naturally talented still require a coach? Right? And the reason why I ask that question is because if these extremely talented people have a coach, shouldn't everybody need a coach? Shouldn't everybody need a mentor? Shouldn't anybody need a guide or a teacher? Probably. But we have this whole like, F you, I don't need me, INDEPENT, like I'm here by myself, like I'm the best, you're the worst mindset. And we have to change that. And we have to be willing to listen to advice. And you do have people that look for mentors, but then when you talk to the mentor and they tell you what you got to do, which is put in work and study books all day, which is the equivalent of playing on a basketball court, you don't want to do it. So why ask for advice and get the advice and then don't put it into action? So waste of time.
I feel like a huge problem for a lot of us is just the ego aspect. Just like, you're up there. I'm very talented per se. I should make it too, I mean, there's ways and like you mentioned, like you have to put in work, you have to study. Those people didn't get to those points without putting in like years and years of effort and learning to get to that point. So like I feel like in our community especially, we don't think about that as often as we should. Just talking about let's just actually walk through your journey personally and how you actually kind of, on this thought of mindset, on the thought of career growth, of how you went from, school to invest in banking to, a bunch of different roles as you transition and to finally before the inception of Career Karma. Like walk us through that.
Well, currently, the biggest breakthrough, the biggest thing that led me to a breakthrough mentally is reading a book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. Okay. Every single person that I know needs to read the Can't Hurt Me book by David Goggins. It is a life-changing book. And what's crazy about the book is a lot of things. But after reading the book, I pushed myself physically to a level that I never thought I could. And I'll give you an example. So 3 months ago, I never ran more than 2 miles. Like I was huffing and puffing by half a mile. Earlier this month, I ran 53 miles in less than 48 hours. And it was all a mental push. And it taught me to realize like how much I have been underestimating myself. And when I think about it, and I think about like just my earlier life, the things that helped me have a different mindset were, first of all, being a musician. That first of all, being a black cellist, there's not a lot of us that are out there. So I had to be better. Right? You have to set a goal that pushes yourself every week. I liked being the best. But it wasn't just like being the best competing against other people. Like I could compete if I wanted to. It was being my best. Like my mother can tell, like if I performed in front of people and everybody loved it, my mother could come to me and be disappointed and be like, that wasn't your best.
Yeah.
And it's not like to impress others. It's like pour your heart out, right? Bare your soul. Show them what you feel. Like bring this music to life, And my mother was in every single lesson growing up. And she made sure that she took notes. My father was at all the performances. And like I said, again, it's like setting goals every week, making sure you practice every single day. You surround yourself by people that are better than you. And that's going to shift your mindset. If you're surrounding yourself by people that are not pushing themselves and not better than you, or always validating you, then that could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. Like there's something that I heard yesterday as well from another person that I was talking to is this verse that I think is very important. So like the people that you want to surround yourself around are people that are telling you the truth, right? A lot of people want to surround themselves by people that lie to them. And something that's very interesting about Y Combinator is like it teaches you how to not lie to yourself, right? And I didn't realize that that's kind of like the things that I was doing with myself, but meaning surrounding myself with people that don't lie to me. But like I always look for truth tellers. I always look for people that like can tell me if I'm doing well or not. And I'm trying to find this thing for you guys so you guys can hear it because I think it's a really powerful thing. It says wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. Right? And
I like that.
It's wounds from a friend can be trusted, but an enemy multiplies kisses. It comes from Proverbs. And the reason why I bring it up is because a lot of people will surround themselves by friends, and if they tell them something that they don't want to hear, they get mad. But like you actually want to seek people that will hold you accountable. Um, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm where I am. I'm always seeking that, and I'm always seeking people that push themselves to the limit. And I'm continuing to do that. That's part of the reason why I moved to San Francisco is because, like, first of all, this is where all the weirdos are, but also where all the people that think big are, and people that tell the truth. That's a blanket statement. That's not everybody, but like for the most part, like I'm surrounded by these types of people that get me there.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like a lot of what resonates with you is that aspect of having people around you that have the same goal, or at least the same mindset to push you along the way to kind of accomplish what you're doing. And that's kind of what gets us to Career Karma with the community aspect of it. That's what we wanted to understand of how you, can you describe to us how you kind of came across the idea of building that community, especially with, your track record of kind of leading into mentors and coaches and things like that?
Yeah, so I was born in Loma Linda, California. My parents went to school there, and to Loma Linda medical school. And the reason why I bring up Loma Linda is because it's a blue zone, and blue zones are where people live for hundreds of years. Right?
Okay.
And the reason why I bring it up is because there's blue zones all over the world, and there's a blue zone in Okinawa, Japan. And in Okinawa, Japan, women live the oldest in the world. And there's a concept called a Moai, Moai. There's a really good New York Times article that talks about the power of positive people. And what the women in Okinawa, Japan do is from a young age, they band together and commit to each other, not just emotionally as friends, but also financially, from a healthcare perspective, from everything perspective. And the mindset is it's easier to go through life if you have a safety net.
Right.
Yeah. When I was in college, I wrote a blog with my buddy Adam Wamet called A Family of Strangers. Right. Everybody's not blessed to be in a 2-parent home. Everybody's not blessed to have a circle of friends. Some people are adopted. Some people are just in broken neighborhoods. Some people just like they don't have blood ties. But it's possible to find brothers and sisters all over the world. But now the internet has your people somewhere that you can find. Right? In my opinion, the purpose of technology is to create, give people a voice, and to organize. And so when you think about community, like I want to organize our people together so that we can create and have a voice, right? And when you think about community and building a family of strangers, like just using the women example, like I can never relate to a mom because I'm not a mom. I could do my best, but I'm not a mom. So how do I gather all the moms together that have a shared struggle? And just because you're a mom, that doesn't mean that you have the same struggle as all other moms. Like a mom in a 2-parent wealthy home is different than a single mom, right? A mom that's a single mom with no family is different than a single mom with family, right? There's like a lot of things that are there. So how do we put people with shared struggles together? That's number one. Once you gather them together, how do you give them the tools to be able to not just talk about their problems, but to put action in order to make the best about what's been given to them? Because everything happens for a reason, which is another mindset shift.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you have something that looks like a perceived disadvantage, how do we turn that into an advantage? The fact that you can be a single mom with no family and make it work proves that you actually have stronger survival skills than most people in the world. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
So how do you believe that? Because that really matters. Some people will hide the fact that they're pregnant, for example, right? Because they don't want to be out of the running for employment for good reason. But like I think that like it's important to figure out how to do that. How do I connect you to an employer where the hiring manager is also pregnant? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That matters, you know. And so when I think about community, like I envision a world where or we envision a world where if I'm a Haitian um brother in Miami that wants to go to WinCode, where are all the Haitian brothers in Miami that are currently employed at companies, and what are those companies that went to WinCode? Now I know who my people are. So while I'm training, I can start building with them and understanding their stories and being empowered and inspired by their stories, so that when I'm in the job search, if not, I'm not ready for the job, they can tell me what I need to do to get ready to get employed at that company. And then when I'm ready, they can vouch for me and put their word on the line to get me to where I want to go. And I want to be able to do that for any skill set, for any demographic, for any share struggle, forever and ever. So yeah.
I think that's a great way to kind of push people forward, because obviously with the internet, the tools are always there, but like you said, a lot of us just don't know how to use it or apply it or find the right resources that applies to us. But once you've established that, like, you need to bring kind of the users there, or you need to bring, get the word out to that. And like right now, I think you guys are over 100,000 members right now on Career Karma. So can you tell us how, like, what steps you took to kind of getting the word out and grabbing those users into your platform to say, hey, this is actually something that's going to help you and take you somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, we started like how you guys started with the podcast. I mean, we started before this with the blog. We wrote even before the Breaking the Startups blog, I wrote a story about how I got into investment banking, my personal journey, even though I didn't have the typical background to get to BMO, which is a Canadian bank. So shout out to Canada, right? And then I wrote a blog about how I got into tech, and then I wrote a blog about how my co-founders got into tech. And then we realized that people don't read anymore, and so we launched the podcast, which was also paying homage to our radio roots. I used to work in the radio when I was in college.
Okay. Yeah.
And we pretty much told it was a love project. It's still a love project. It's the stories of everyday people like you and me that figured out how to break into tech. And my co-founders did this, and then that essentially served as our way to reach out to schools and talk to them about what's going on. And that also inspired the idea of starting the company. And that also served as our early users, as people coming in there and things that people were listening to this thing daily. And yeah, I'll say that the podcast was the early catalyst. Also, when I was in college, I used to throw a lot of parties, and so
Okay.
I was I organized a lot of events in Atlanta, and I always had a celebrity at my parties. Like the first party we did, we had Tyrese. Tyrese was like crowd surfing in the crowd. Then we had like Ice-T and Coco. We had Trey Songz. We had Neo. We had Kim Kardashian when she was dating Reggie Bush. Like all these people. And what I learned was a lot of things, like how to run a street team. We would take over MySpace. This was before Facebook events was a thing, so we used the tools to like get all the events out. And what I noticed is we had this photographer from ATL Pics. His name's Prince, and he would take pictures of everybody at the event, high quality pictures. And people do this all the time now. This is before everybody does this. And he would post them the next day, and it would be watermarked ATL Pics. And nobody was doing this before. And everybody wanted to be at the club because they wanted to get a high quality picture for their profile on their MySpace.
Right.
And then all the people in VIP wanted to do this with the celebrities. Right? They want to be pictures in the VIP with celebrities. So I took the same concept when I came out to the Bay. When we came out to the Bay, we're like, who are the celebrities? Oh, that's like Michael Seibel from Y Combinator. That's the the CEO of Pinterest. That's the CEO of like. So those are all the celebrities, all the VCs and the founders. Those are celebrities. Okay, cool. So people in tech don't know how to throw parties, so let's throw a party. And so we did like a party at Fusion Lounge, for example. We did it at a club called Infusion Lounge with Black Professional Network. We had, and then they said, "There's no black people in tech." I was like, "There's no black people in tech." Watch, 400 black people in tech. Dress. We had a red carpet. We had the step and repeat. We had the photographers. We had DJ D Sharp from the Warriors. We had Michael. We had a bunch of founders from YC, and it was lit. It was beautiful people, and like we took pictures. We posted it the next day. We recorded the videos. Boom, and then we kept doing that, and like starting to get a reputation where I was like, all right, now I don't need to do this in clubs anymore. What is like the tech equivalent of a club? Well, let's start up headquarters. Okay, cool. Let's do it at Slack headquarters. Let's do it at this place. Let's do it at that place. Then we started doing these events where we were like literally breaking the tech and like be in the building and like launch an event and give access to the whole hood. You from Oakland? You from San Jose? Pull up. Let's look at what it's like on the inside. And it was like a beautiful thing. And so like we started to get this reputation that like we can be wherever we want to be, you know? Right. And that's how we got our early people.
Yeah. So you played basically on the whole mindset aspect of, opening up their mindset of like, this is where you can be, and it's opening it. That's so cool, man. That's fucking sick.
So kind of where do you go from here now with Career Karma? What do you see for the future?
Yeah. So to get the Series A, I think I know we've done a fantastic job of like matching people to schools and getting them enrolled into schools. The product historically has not been set up to engage someone after they're enrolled in the school, other than like we started playing with it with this idea called a squad, which is like that peer mentorship group I was telling you about, where if I'm a mom, I connect with other moms. If I'm a dad, I connect with other dads or whatever.
Right.
But we're taking that concept to the next level where we've launched live audio rooms inside of Career Karma. It's kind of like imagine if Discord and Clubhouse had a baby focused on careers. Like that's what we did. We already have messaging built out. We already have forums built out. So every single night you could download Career Karma and you'll see Monday through Friday, at least currently, there's different people from the industry that are speaking to the community, engaging with the community. Like last Friday we had the VP of engineering from Twitter. We had the engineer from Stitch Fix. We had engineers from Netflix, from Google, from all these other places. And so we've built these mechanisms so that while you're enrolled in the program, you can begin networking from day one. Before you're enrolled, you can begin networking from day one. And even after you're employed, you can actually give back to the community. If you're a school, you can host rooms inside of Career Karma. If you're a company, you could host rooms inside of Career Karma. So, the Series B story is not just going to be how we like started making a bunch of money. That's going to be the case, but we're also going to tell the story about how we have amazing retention and how our platform engages people after they're enrolled into a program. And so that's going to be the main focus. And the other goal, OKR, I just named two of our OKRs, will be focus on customer satisfaction and just making sure that as we go from boot camps to trade schools and colleges to take over all the job training, that people know that people love us on both sides of the market. As we continue towards our focus of becoming and maintaining our position as the category king to the rapid reskilling movement.
Sweet. So we also know that for a fact, Career Karma was selected as one of a few that have made it into Y Combinator. And for those who don't know, Y Combinator is one of the most prestigious, if not the most prestigious, tech accelerator or startup accelerator in SF. And so, walk us through what the process looked like, for Career Karma, and what was like the selling point to say you think that for Y Combinator for saying this is a valuable startup that has a lot of potential in the future.
Yeah. So Y Combinator's process is pretty straight up. It's very accessible to anybody. It is hard to get in, but it's accessible to anybody. You just literally apply. And the application is very thorough. what's beautiful about the application is like you can't lie to yourself. You have to tell the truth, and you have to like lay it all out there and show that you are well thought out. Like it's a natural filter. But if you've launched something that users want or need, and it's either making money or has a path towards making money, you have a team that has a technical co-founder, or you're technical, and you've picked a market that's ideally growing or nascent or has like a big vision.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, you should be good. And if you could explain it simply, for the most part, you should be able to get an interview. Like that's like
Yeah.
the basics. Obviously, I'm not representative of Y Combinator, but like that's how I thought about it, right? I mean, I am part of the Y Combinator network, but like that's how I thought about how to get in. If you do that, then they invite you for a 10-minute interview, and people are like, "What? 10 minutes?" Yes, 10 minutes. And so that's where you got to be on point. And I would say the first time we got the interview, because we got rejected the first time, um, the reason why we didn't get in is not because we had a different idea the second time. It's because of communication, in my opinion, right? Um, they want to accept you, but they want to also like understand how you think, and so they will interrupt you. It feels like Shark Tank style,
Yeah.
but way more legit. And if you let them take over the conversation, they will. And the first time I let them take over the conversation, the whole time they were like comparing us to LinkedIn, and I didn't have any rebuttals for it. I was just like, oh yeah, no, I can see how you think about that. But what I should have said is like, oh yeah, no, I hear you. And I understand how you can see how you could come to that conclusion. But the way that we think about it is, boom. And like always, you want to have three main points, three or four main points, and you always want to bring it back to your main points. But if you let them take over the conversation, then anybody will take over your conversation. They're not trying to
Yeah.
get you. Like they're trying to see if like, do you have what it takes to raise money from investors? They're going
Yeah.
to
Really.
grill you. Are you ready to
Yeah.
be grilled? This is harder than an interview, like a job interview. It's deeper, and you have to know this better than them. And they're going to also be looking for how you interact with your co-founders. Are you the one that talks all the time? Do they know how to talk? Like who speaks when, right? If there's a curveball, are you ready for the curveballs? Does the right person on your team know to speak for whatever curveball is thrown, right?
Right.
You gotta be
Right.
ready for that.
Yeah.
And then I think your last part of your question was about the advantage of being a Y Combinator. Was that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Y Combinator, yeah, it is the greatest accelerator in the world, and it's getting better over time, which is kind of crazy. The batch is getting better, and that's credit to Michael Sabo and everybody else on the team over there, Jeff Ralston and all these other people, Gustav, all these other people that are doing their thing, especially with what they've done virtually. I mean, I was blessed to be at the first time that they did their demo day in San Francisco, before the pandemic, which was kind of surreal because going from being rejected from YC to I was the first pitch in the San Francisco one in a room of 2,000 people.
Mm.
It had 2 minutes on stage, and it was it was like I don't really get nervous on stage, but I was nervous,
Yeah.
and I was nervous that time. But like it was a great milestone, and it felt so good. Um, and what's dope about being in YC is not just the access to the investors, but the access to peers and mentors that have done what you've done, before, but are doing what you're doing, if not better. Like these people are growing. Like you can't slack. They're always like going hard, like rate like growing 20% monthly every month, like raising their A's, raising their B's, all these things. Like you always got to be on point. Part of the reason why we raised our A too is like everybody's raising their A. You're like, dang, like but and it's not just you're doing what everybody else is doing, but like since everybody's in the same space, you know what's happening in the market based off what's happening to them, right?
Right.
Because you're in the right circles, you know. Also, the people that can relate to founders is rare, right? Not a lot of people understand what a founder actually deals with psychologically. Because yeah, like founders look like superheroes, but we have feelings too,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So like being around people that like you can relate to matters, you know, like that a lot of people don't understand. So yeah. And then also like you have potential customers in YC. You have potential people that can be hiring the bootcamp grads that are in Career Karma. Um, People give discounts to each other. We have our own way to communicate with each other. Shout out to Gary Tan, who's our board member who built out Bookface, which is the internal database for Y Combinator. And yeah, it's great.
No, that's awesome, man. I think it's so important. Like you're building a community, but you're utilizing community at the same time, and it kind of fits so well together. What would you say is like the number one lesson that you've learned through Y Combinator that you've continued to apply at Career Karma?
Do things that don't scale. And the whole the whole point of it's better to have 100 people that love you than a million people that kind of like you. Um, it's very for people that don't know what doing things that don't scale is like um, you're doing things manually before you code it up, right? So
Yeah,
essentially, like there's a lot of founder magic that a lot of people lose as they start raising money. So a lot of people are shocked that I'm always talking to users. They're like, "How do you talk to everybody in your community every day?" Like, and I'm always talking to like people will be shocked that they're talking to the CEO today, and it's a simple thing when you think about it, but it's so powerful because as you grow, you don't realize the impact that you're making in the community. Like I still feel like regular me, but
yeah,
when people look at Career Karma, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like you're talking to me," and I'm just like, "I'm just regular me,"
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
But to them, it's like, "Yo, you took time to speak with me." Like, yes, I did because I like I care, you know, and the things that you share about how like for example you say you play with the product. I want to hear what's not working so that I can communicate that with the engineers and the marketing team and the sales team and everybody else so that we can make sure that what we're building is actually what people want and not what we think
Yeah,
that they want, right?
yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people build things in silos without talking to users, pretending that it's what they want, and you may know about it because you've been there before, right? You've been like a boot camp student before, but a boot camp in 2014 is different than a boot camp in 2020 and 2021,
yeah,
right? The
yeah.
world changed.
Right.
And so you always have to be boots on the ground. And that's the work a lot of people don't want to do. So doing things that don't scale is important. And then as far as like getting people to love what you're doing, like to and also like once you do know what people want, then you code it up, and then like
Yeah,
you automate it. But you, I always like to be in a place where I'm doing something manual always to understand like what is the new thing to be working on that can be coded up later. It's kind of
yeah,
like what Reid Hoffman from LinkedIn talks about. He says like live life as if you're in permanent beta, right? And I would say the same thing with tech. Like I always want to be experimenting on something new that can like take the product to the next level. And then it's easy for us to be like, all right, let's go to trade schools and colleges right now just to like blow the app up and like get to the billion people in the next 10 years. But I don't want to do that right now. I want to go deep
mm,
with boot camps, right? And people like are shocked. Like, how are you gonna like to get to a billion people in 10 years? You got to be 100 million a year. You're not gonna get there with boot camps. Not even close.
yeah,
What are you waiting for? Well, I mean, you gotta crawl before you run. I mean, you got to set up the right foundation, you know. And this is this is the rock that we're going to stand on. That's going to propel us into the stratosphere while everybody else is figuring it out. So
yeah, yeah. You know, it's funny because we a couple weeks ago we had another founder at Mapped In, Hongwei. He said the exact same thing. No lie, is do things that don't scale. because what he found was like other founders around him were just pouring money into things that were not working, and they're just wasting money at the end of the day, and they were not really advancing product. They were just adding features that may or may not work. And so he's like, we have a long-term vision to this whole game. Other startups have like a narrow focus on 1 or 2 years, what's going to happen kind of thing. And that's what, allowed them to go, 10 years now on, and as one of the largest category companies within, their industry. And so like, it's funny how things come around. It's just like not one founder thinks the same way. It's just like, it's funny that you said, it's literally the exact same words you said too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, to your point, it also depends on your goal. Like, we want to build something that stands the test of time. We want to build something that, like, you ask, like, why Combinator invest in us? Like, a lot of tech people, they look at LinkedIn as the biggest exit, like this $20+ billion acquisition. But that's not the biggest staffing firm in the world. The biggest staffing firms in the world are like Recruit Holdings. That's a $50 billion company that acquired Indeed and Glassdoor. There's a Deco that's also in the $50 billion range that acquired General Assembly, which is one of our customers. Like, those are the biggest staffing firms. We want to be on that level, if not bigger, and we are positioned to be there. But it's very important for you to be methodical about what you're doing. And to your point, like, even though we have all this cash, it doesn't mean we need to spend it all without knowing where it's going.
Exactly.
Like, you do want to grow fast. Don't get me wrong. But I'm also not going to spend money if I don't know what the return is.
Exactly. And then one thing I actually want to ask, and we ask a lot of leaders, is how do you build a vision? Like, there's so many like kind of like ambiguous thoughts about what a vision is. What's your definition of like, here's the vision of where our company's going, and then how do you get like everyone within your company to actually fit into that thought process?
I think when you think about things like mission and vision, ideally you want it to be something that's personal, right? Something that like you've lived. And that's usually like kind of like probably the best driver to starting a company, is like you're building something that you wish that you had, right? In life that like other people will be able to have in the future. And you're going to try to do that yourself for a while, and like you're not going to have like super clear goals. You're just going to be like trying a bunch of things. Your only real clear goal is going to be like revenue is your KPI. if you're helping people, then it turns into revenue, right? But then like when you're like where we are now, like you want to think deeper about like goals. And so we use OKRs, which are objectives and key results. So an OKR, so the objective is a qualitative goal, and then the KR, or the key result, is a quantitative goal, right? Okay. And like I told you, we broke our OKRs down into revenue goals, customer success goals, and then product goals, like retention goals. And then you want to have a system to be able to track everything internally, so people know what's going on. So you could use a tool like Lattice or Mesh in order to track this stuff. Every OKR is designed to be a stretch goal, which is like paying homage to my upbringing with like setting a stretch goal every week. And they're usually rated out of 1, where if you're hitting 1, you're probably not setting your goals ambitious enough. But if you're hitting 0.7, then like you're in a good range, like between 0.7 and 0.8, you're in a good range. So it's a stretch goal. And every KR needs to have a wrangler, right? So let's say we have 2 KRs or 3 KRs, and us 3, usually like you like to have like 2 or 3 KRs for each objective. And so each one of us is a wrangler for the KRs. So what that means is you own the number that hits our qualitative objective, right? But in order for you to hit that number that you own now, you're going to have people on your team that are going to work with you to hit the number. And you're going to communicate to the founders what you need that may not exist outside of the team. Like it might be a tool, it might be a new hire, it might be a budget, whatever. And you have that strategic conversation. And then you work on it. You might discuss it with your board. You might put it into an operating model to project it. In the operating model, you'll probably like model out either when you're going to run out of money, either when you're going to just be profitable forever, but still want to raise a financing event. You might project when you want to raise a financing event, but you just want to think about your operating model and just have that clarity in there. And then it's just about execution and making sure that like everybody also like does right by not just the company, but just like personally. There's no like external factors in the media and fires that like affect the company. And that's it.
Love it, man. That was a great step-by-step breakdown, and I feel like that's kind of your procedure for everything that you've talked to us about today. Like you have a very methodical strategy on how you approach things. And even to your podcast, breaking into startups, you mentioned like how you use that user base to go into career commerce. So it's like you had that step-by-step vision for all of those things. And you've kind of talked to kind of a lot of the advice that you've learned, whether that's pop culture references or mentors that you've kind of worked with. So what we wanted to ask you along that line was kind of from your guests working that you've spoken to on breaking into startups. Can you tell us one thing or something that stood out to you that resonated with you the most along that podcast series?
Through the guests that I've interviewed?
Yeah.
I think the biggest one is that everyone has dealt with imposter syndrome. Everyone has dealt with feeling like they don't belong. And some people have done things in order to deal with it. And some people have been comfortable embracing the fact that they are who they are and are proud that they don't fit in. And I think that that's the category I think we should all strive to be, where like you actually don't want to be like everybody else, and you're proud to be weird, you're proud to be different, you're proud to be something that's like not misunderstood.
Right.
But also strive to communicate so people understand your perspective, but they don't try to mold you to be somebody different. That's why like Kanye gets a bad rap, and I don't agree with a lot of his political things, but like he is comfortable being his unique self, right? And he's confident about it. And like there's like this, I wish I gotta find the interview clip because I'm gonna post it. There's like this thing where he like talks about his confidence that his mother gave him. So like where he's like, I can do anything I want to do. They're like, well, they're interviewing. They're like, do you think that you could be in the NBA? He's like, yes. But like he says it like so matter of fact. He's like, I could. Just like everything. Like, yes, I can. Like just that what Nas talked about too. Like I think I can. I could be whatever I want to be. You know that song? Like I forgot what it's called. But like that song, just like that mindset matters, and just mindset over everything. So I'll say that's the biggest thing.
Sweet. Can I ask you a question too? So it's like I get the vibes of you like let's say from a normal tech community that you're different from normal founders, like the way you present yourself. You seem like more, let's say, what's the word I'm looking for without being offensive or anything.
You could be 1,000.
Yeah, it's just like more aligned with like the millennial values and just like more up to nature, like just a real human being. I feel like in terms of who you are and how you present yourself, especially when it comes to the community, right? You're kind of also representing your culture. I feel in your role, and that's kind of the vibes I get off you. And has any kind of, have you seen some negativity towards like the way you present yourself as a founder versus like, your typical cookie cutter startup CEO kind of thing?
That's a good question. The answer is no. I'm blessed to work with co-founders that, even though they're white, they understand struggle too. Like their parents are immigrants, their parents are blue collar, and they work hard to be out here, and like they grew up in Atlanta too, and they've seen it all. And like I love those guys, man. Artur and Timur, those are my brothers, and the investors that we chose also understand what's going on in the world, and like that you can't solve this problem without being 1,000%. You can't solve this problem without being who I am and like representing the culture and doing all these other things, and that's why it hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that it could rub people the wrong way, because I do say things that some people are scared to say, that might be politically incorrect, or that might be what people feel in the community that they don't want to talk about. But I think it's important to be shared, and there's a balance, right? I am still responsible, right? So when I say something that can be shocking, I'm going to be very thoughtful about what I say to make sure I don't get that pushback. But if I do get the pushback, which is probably inevitable that it comes at some point, I'm going to listen to the feedback, and I'm going to iterate, and I'm going to adjust.
Yeah.
But I think that going back to the purpose of technology, what's the purpose of technology? Give people a voice, give people the power to create, give people the power to organize, right? At some point, I don't want to do all the talking. Ideally, this year, I'm not doing all the talking. Ideally, you're interviewing people on my team, right? Yeah. You're interviewing people from the community that got jobs in tech through Career Karma. That's why I want people to start interviewing more.
Right.
And then they'll tell you their truth, and you'll see that I'm not BSing. You'll hear it raw. When you listen to our podcast and you hear those stories, what I'm talking about is vanilla versus what they've been through.
Right, know? For sure. Ruben, this was a great chat. We've covered a lot of things. One thing that we like to do is we like to end off with a lightning round where we kind of throw some quick questions at you and get a fast answer, first thing that comes to mind.
Sounds good.
Awesome. This, you may have already mentioned it already, but can you tell us your favorite book of all time?
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yeah, love it. You can have dinner with one person, dead or alive, from any time. Who would that be?
Historically, I would say Malcolm X, but now I would say David Goggins. But David Goggins is going to be my best friends. Like, that's going to happen. Like, I'm putting that out there. But
yeah,
I'll say Malcolm X still.
Awesome, man. I want to see that happen. This might be related to David Goggins as well. Can you tell us some of the words that you live by every day?
Faster, faster until the thrill of speed overcomes the fear of death. Right? So, like, the reason why you got to move fast and, like, reach these, like, billion-dollar categories or billion user levels is because the problem that you're solving is so great and people are hurting now. So, time is of the essence. There's also this quote on my wall. Let me read it. It says, and when you discover what you will be in your life, set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. It's by Dr. Martin Luther King. So, like, once you figure out what your purpose is, launch like a bat out of hell and go after it, get after it. So that's another one. I have another quote right here on my wall that says, what are we going to do today? The same thing we do every day. That's from Pinky and the Brain. What do they say? Try and take over the world, right? So that's
for sure.
Right. But it's not in a malicious way. I'm not here just power hungry to, like, take over the world. I want to shift the power dynamics and give people control of their own destiny. I want to give them the tools to just unlock human potential. If I died tomorrow, I want to make sure that there's an ecosystem to where people can just unlock their full potential and not have to deal with a lot of you're going to always have to deal with BS. So I know human nature, but I want people to just like know that there's a path that they can choose. You can take the red pill if you want to. I just want to give people the red pill.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yo, you should put that Pinky in the Brain one on a shirt, man. That's great. I love that. And lastly, this one's probably the most kind of fun and controversial question that we give our guests. Do you like pineapples on your pizza?
Oh, of course, man. It's great. Yeah. Pineapple
That was
on
automatic.
pizza, let's go. It's great.
was
My brother and I
automatic,
talk
man.
about that all the time. Yeah, it's great. I like pineapple on pizza. Yesterday I had a poke bowl with pineapple with the salmon and everything. It was great.
Okay.
All right, this man puts pineapple on everything.
Well, instead of hot sauce, it's pineapple, right?
Yeah.
For Ed Frank's hot sauce and shit. Oh man, this was honestly like a really riveting experience. Like, just to hear from you all like the like real life experiences and like quote unquote like actual real shit that happens in life. It's not like sugar coated like some guests we have like kind of sugarcoat their experiences. You gave us like the real kind of breakdown, and that's kind of what we love interviewing, like, people outside of like the normal kind of tech community. Just like, you're a Black founder, a Black CEO. Your story is much different than a lot of other individuals. So it that inspires us, right? Because we're two minority founders trying to do something. We're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to inspire a community of pursue your passion as well. So, final thoughts. I just love your kind of feedback on, your experience here, and, if anything, how do we improve too?
Man, I love it, man. I think you guys are doing the right thing. I mean, you guys are doing exactly what I was doing with better equipment, man. Those microphones and the guys have got the pop filters and everything. I didn't have all of that, man. You guys look good. You guys are hungry. You're doing this on a Sunday. We talk about how success on Monday starts on Sunday. Like, it's clear that you're protecting your dreams. You're going after it, and anything I could do to help, like, that's what I want to do. That's why I take my time on a Sunday to do it, because like, this is similar to doing things that don't scale. I don't have to do podcasts, but I do podcasts all the time, and I don't care who it is. If people ask me to be on media, I say yes, because like, it's just I know what it's like. It's just one of the most powerful things. You're giving people a voice. You guys are showing people how it's done, and I'm inspired by you guys. So just keep doing it and just let me know.
Respect, man. Respect.
Love it, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you taking the time, especially on a Sunday as well, like you said. And this was great, man. And just to add one more to that, I think you're doing a great job, especially kind of living that idea of be different rather than being like everyone else. A lot of people have a hard time trying to fit in and not be themselves, and it's just what the world pushes you to do. So like, I think you're screaming that off the top of the building, and we love that.
Likewise, man. Yeah, I mean, those posts don't get as many retweets or favorites, but I know they watch.
For sure. It's always those like it's always those weird ass tweets and stuff that I always get like the most popular likes and stuff. But whatever, man. It's all good.
So
you
cool,
true to
man.
yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Man, appreciate it.